The chopping block is sponsored by GEORGIAWAND. GEORGIAWAND empowers women to advocate for climate, environmental, and social justice grounded in racial equity.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Chopping Block. I'm Raven Money.
I am Cornetta, and we are again chopping issues one at a time. So for this 3-part series, we invited Andrea Young-Jones back, and we're going to just be touching up on our legislative update because, as you all know, our legislative session for this year just ended. So Andrea, take us away.
Okay, so there were a number of issues that were raised and bills that were introduced to the Georgia General Assembly that dealt with environment, right, and climate change. But unfortunately, based on the climate that we have, those are things that are going to be something that we're going to have probably address in the next legislative session. And so I'm glad that we're doing this so I can highlight this, because we're not done in terms of our ability to at least get the conversation going, but it does show that the work that we're going to have to really engage in to really make a meaningful difference in terms of how we address climate change, our air quality, our health, and our education. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of bills. I know that we don't have a lot of time, but I'll highlight a couple of bills that we basically were eagle-eyed on, that we looked at. We looked at the Environmental Justice Act. There were 3 Environmental Justice Acts that were introduced to the Georgia General Assembly by State Representative Drenner and also by State Representative Schofield. Those bills did not go anywhere in terms of going to committee, but they did get the conversation going. We also had an EJ Day at the General Assembly, and so those are the things that need to kind of get that buzz going and get those coalition types of policy making happening, because the only way you can do these types of things is with a long coalition of people. Another bill that has to do with our environment that was sponsored by Representative Taylor was about the Okefenokee swamp and the permitting to actually start mining in that area. And so that was looked at, that was reviewed, but it really didn't go anywhere in terms of protecting the Okefenokee. Right. But it is a hot button issue because it has a lot to do with the erosion of the Georgia coastline and how we're going to address some of the things that are going on in terms of industry. The other one, the bill that I particularly, and there were some other bills, more so a House resolution, was the Public Water Systems and Study Committee, which was basically going to look at the urban areas in terms of the condition of the water, to be more, I think, proactive with the Flint, addressing what's happening in Flint and with Jackson.
And by the way, the Flint actually did finally get some type of resolution because they got $600 million to help out with the water crisis that's going on. So y'all keep on watching and seeing what's going on and be updated with that as well.
But the city of Atlanta or other urban areas, this could happen here. And so to be proactive, we should probably start looking at testing to see if to ensure that this won't happen in Georgia. These are the types of things that we can do. It should have been a bill, but it was a resolution. The other thing another bill out of not so much talking about in terms of environment and energy, but it does play a role, is education. One of the major bills that came out, SB 233, which was introduced by Senator Greg Dolso, was going to provide $6,000 of public money to students to attend private schools. And so how does this fall into environmental justice? Well, we all know the ecology of a community is housing, education, and amenities, right? I want to be able to, play where I live. I want to go to school where I live, and I want to be able to have a safe and decent housing where I live, right? And so when schools are basically upended, especially public schools in Georgia that basically educate the majority of children in the state, when they are not invested in and when money is taken out to send some families to private schools, because not all families are going to go there, then it affects the ecology of that neighborhood, right? And it affects the education and attainment of the children who are living there. And so there is poor air quality in our schools. There is poor resources in our schools. Some schools don't have air conditioning or heat. Some schools have mold, lead-based paint. I mean, there is an investment that we can really make. And instead, asbestos, thank you. And instead of us looking at that, the condition of schools, we would rather give money so parents can take them out of the schools.
Right.
And so that is something that I think needs to be looked at. It needs to be stopped. They're going to come back again in 2024 when the legislative session opens again, and they're going to try this, and they're going to continue to try this until we make public education and the funding of it a serious priority here in Georgia. And so and so I am adamant about educating people about this and showing that there is an environmental justice concern here, right? So, because I should not have to drive an hour to take my kids to school, right? I mean, you know, I should have a community school, right? And my children, when they go, I should not worry about their air quality. I should not worry if they're being exposed to asbestos or lead-based paint or anything that will add to a health determinant that will affect them for the rest of their lives. So, you know, that bill there. Then there's also another bill that I particularly wanted to bring about and to discuss was the EV bill, the electric vehicle bill. Okay, so Georgia is funded, our roads and our highways are funded through the gas tax, right? Well, of course, if you have less people purchasing gas, right, then you might have less money in the coffers. You know, more than likely, you know, that's true. And so the idea is that if we have more electric vehicles within the state of Georgia, then we're going to have less people purchasing gas. And so how do you pull that money out of the EVs, out of the batteries that are used to charge? And so there's a bit of debate about that, you know, about how to do that. We should do it. But then also there's a contradiction because Georgia is now one of the fastest growing states in building electric vehicles and batteries, right? So there is something going on now where there's a push and pull, right? And we're in the middle of it, right? And so they're going to have to figure out a way to pay for our roads and our bridges outside of just the gas tax. They're talking about maybe setting up toll roads. They're talking about charging people with EVs, electric vehicles more. They already charge them $200 a registration fee, so which could hamper our ability to be able to buy an electric vehicle, right? So then what's going to happen? Only people who have money and means will have electric vehicles, and people who don't, you know, will be driving vehicles that are, you know, dangerous to their health.
So I have a question about that, and I think it's more so from just feedback I get in the community, where, you know, people are already trying to figure out how they're going to pay this bill or how they're going to feed themselves for an entire month, how they're going to pay for their medicine, you know, how they only even going to just pay $25 for emissions.
Yes.
So now, although we know that the electric vehicles are better for our ozone and economy, what does that really look like for our communities? And when I say our, I mean Black and brown communities, because although it's a time where a lot of us are getting ahead, it's a time where a lot of us are still struggling, you know, and trying to understand, you know, what things really mean for us. So what does that look like, in your opinion?
Well, you know, there are incentives that the government, and when I say government, I mean us, people can do. We can do in order to encourage people to purchase electric vehicles, but they are very expensive, extremely. And I know that the government has given tax breaks and tax credits to people who purchase them, but they mainly go, like you said, to the dominant culture, to white people, right? And not so much to Black people. So what can we do in terms of addressing that? And one of the things that we need to do is that I believe that we need to be able to first look at some of our public resources like our school buses and things like that, where we create infrastructure for batteries and we make that open to the public for a time being in order for people to be able to, who can purchase electric vehicles and can get that tax credit, will be able to do that in the rural areas and be able to also take advantage of that and not be left out the cold, right?
So it's the goal is to get rid of all cars that need gas? Is that the main goal?
Yeah, I believe so. I think the goal is to get us off of having fossil fuels
and
carbon emissions on our roads and freeways. Yes, I do. The goal eventually is to get to that point, to lessen, the emissions of it. Yes.
And this is going to be a debate, we know, wherever we talk about this topic. But it's just, for me, the thing is, like, I understand because I'm all from Mother Earth, so I get it. I'm learning more and more every day how just little things I do affect me and those around me. But we have people now that it's 2023. Like, I have a new model vehicle, but we have folks that are driving around in the 1980s,
exactly,
1999,
and that's all they can afford.
And they're struggling with that.
Yes.
And so, like, America has failed people for so long.
Yes.
So I just think that there needs to be processes put in place that's going to be beneficial for everyone.
Like
I
buyback programs.
Agree with it.
Maybe buyback programs.
Yeah,
we
and
can
have.
have.
And I'm saying, like, a lot of people don't even know about these electric cars.
Exactly.
That's what's like.
So there's educational campaigns. We have resources. We've done this before as a country and as a community, educating people and the general public about what's good, what's good for the general welfare. So we can have campaigns about the importance of EVs and electric vehicles and how they will eventually get us to the point where we can use renewable energy and we can get off of fossil fuels. We also can do buyback campaigns for people. Trade in your hoopty, trade in your car, and we'll give you an incentive and we'll give you tax rates for you to get in the EV vehicle. Also,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it possible, like, with someone like a really old car, you saying, like, an exchange or something?
It could be, yes.
And
yes.
like, could they still pay what they're paying now on their old car with the new electric?
When you mean like the cost or the what?
Yeah, the cost.
The cost for it. Well, a car. Well, a car depreciates as soon as you drive it off the lot. But
you might just get $1,500.
Exactly. But that's where the tax credit comes in, right? In terms of, and I don't mean the tax credit at the bottom after I submit my taxes and then you pay me back. I mean at the front end, right? I think I mean at the front end. So the credits that are needed, especially, and we can really, we could be really creative here, and we can hone in on certain communities.
Yeah.
We can look at communities that are struggling with air quality, right? Where we have a high prevalence of asthma, right? And we can say within these communities, we're going to give more incentives. We're going to do the buses, the combustible buses, and do EV buses, and we're going to fund the infrastructure for the batteries to charge these buses, and then we're going to give tax rates to the communities within there who want to purchase EVs, and then also we can use government fleet. Like when I know the city of Atlanta, I'm sure there are other cities that have electric vehicles in their fleet, right? And so why not have an electric vehicle charger system within that government, and that people can come in and use that and utilize that to charge their vehicles. So there are things that we can do as a community to make things less expensive, right? And to be able to have people take advantage of it. So it's not just people who are rich who are able to save money, right? And to live healthy. Yeah.
And also make sure that community partners, residents, citizens also are shareholders, not just people that make in ways where they can also buy into it as well, and make it feasible.
Exactly. Yeah, make it feasible. Exactly. There's ways to get nonprofits involved, helping them, maybe creating, in stations around their area that people can charge, because that's one of the things that's an issue, is the fear of charging. Like, I'm afraid that I'm going to get stuck out. I'm not going to be able to charge my vehicle, and I'm going to be stranded, right? So, or I can't drive long distances, So, there's an education component, and there's a resource component that needs to come in. But then there also needs to be an incentivizing component, so people are able to, not just people with means, but people who need it, definitely in their communities. People, especially in communities that have a high prevalence of health risk and health issues that are caused by the environment that they are living in. Yes, yeah,
absolutely.
mic drop for our season finale. I
Thank
want to
you.
thank you for being our special guest this week. It's
Yeah.
been an honor. I learned a lot this week, especially with the electric cars.
Yes, thank you so much. And let's do this 3-part series again.
Yes, I am down with it. I love it. I love it. I love
Thank you
educating
so much,
people, and I love this idea. Thank you. Thank you for
are
having
welcome.
me.
Thank you so much.
And remember,
All right.
guys, all new episodes of Chop and Block will be on our new Instagram page as well.
That's it.
That's
Thank
it.
y'all for
Thank
chiming
you.
in. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to hit those notifications, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.